It's nearly 20 to 1. Some news just in from Buckingham Palace. It says, following further evaluation this morning, the Queen's doctors are concerned for Her Majesty's health and have recommended she remain under medical supervision. The Queen remains comfortable, they say, and at Balmoral. You'll remember that on Tuesday, Her Majesty met Liz Truss at Balmoral to ask her to form a new government. And then there was the postponement yesterday of a virtual Privy Council meeting, having on the advice of doctors to rest. So we'll bring you any more that we get on that as soon as we have it. Just to repeat, the Queen's doctors are concerned for Her Majesty's health and have recommended she remain under medical supervision. Let's go back to what we've heard from the Prime Minister in terms of her cost of living energy plan. We've got Laura Retty with us, a personal finance expert. In terms of the most vulnerable, we've had this kind of cap on what the average household will pay, about £2,500 a year. What about the most poorly off?
Yeah, this is something that I was a bit disappointed that wasn't mentioned really. So the support that's been announced is largely untargeted, meaning that everyone, rich or poor, will receive the same type of relief. What I will say is the measures from before will continue to go ahead by the looks of it. So the warm home discount scheme will still go ahead. The winter fuel payment for pensioners still go ahead. And there are grants to help pay off your energy debts if you fall into debt with your energy providers, but nothing other than that. So it just feels a little bit like it feels unequal and unfair that there are probably people that maybe aren't on benefits who are just about managing, who are going to have to pay double their energy bills. And yet there are people who can absolutely afford to pay 3-4 times and who are getting the same relief. So that was a bit of a shame that they didn't take the opportunity to make this help a bit more personalised for households.
And we should be clear, what it isn't is a commitment that you will pay no more than £2,500 a year for your gas and electricity. It's not that, is it?
No, it's not. So the energy price cap sets a limit on the amount suppliers can charge for each unit of gas and electricity used. So I've been trying to think about how I can explain this to people. So please forgive me if this makes things more confusing, but imagine you're buying pints of milk. The price cap forces all supermarkets to charge the same for that milk. The more milk you buy, the more it's going to cost you. Some families will only need a pint a week. Others will use a lot more than a pint a week. So if you then think about the £2,500 cap, it's simply the average typical use. For example, the average family uses 4 pints of milk a week. Those who buy just 1 pint will pay less than £2,500 a year, and those that will be buying a lot more milk will be paying a lot more than the £2,500 a year. So the pay is literally just basically saying to all energy companies, you cannot charge more than this amount per unit.
Okay, I'll come back to you on that. That's useful. Just before we lose you, Kitty Usher from the Institute of Directors, Paul Johnson from the IFS, the Institute of Fiscal Studies, the chief economist there, says, he finds it extraordinary. He says, just listen to the PM statement, can't quite believe nothing there about the cost. This is one of the biggest announcements in peacetime history. And apparently we're going to be told how much in a few weeks. It's not a complaint about the policy per se, but some transparency would be welcome. Is that a concern for you?
Well, as I said, I think that's the next big question: is this affordable? Whether we have to wait 2 weeks, I think, is a purely practical issue. I mean, I agree with the director of the IFS, Paul Johnson, in that it's not helpful to have to wait. But I think probably what's happened is that the Office of Budget Responsibility, whose job it is to tell us whether we can afford this or not, needs time to digest and reforecast their projections. And because we've just had a new change of government, there hasn't been an opportunity to confirm to them what the policy announcement actually is until presumably yesterday. And so therefore the kind of mini budget with that forecast can't take place instantly or even next week. It has to be the week after. So it's presumed, the kind of gossip in Westminster circles is that it will be on Wednesday, the 21st. And so is that too far away? Well, I think it's as close as is reasonably possible, given what's just happened.
And for your members, small and medium-sized enterprises, essentially, how much reassurance will this give? We hear every day of customers saying, look, I'm just not going to be able to afford this. I can't afford it at this level. So if it goes any higher, I won't be able to. So are we going to see, the number of closures being a brake put on that now by the reassurance this offers?
I think it's really helpful. I think it's notable that it's an intervention on the business side for 6 months to buy time to see whether there should be more targeted interventions in certain particularly exposed parts of the economy. It's a complicated picture on the business side because, of course, different organisations have different energy use, and what really matters is what proportion of your total cost that is, what type of contract you're on, is it variable, is it fixed, have you hedged, and so on. But what I think we can say with certainty is for businesses that have energy costs that are high and are exposed to the international price of energy, and we're particularly worried about the situation right now, this will come as a relief. So presumably at the margin, it will prevent some business closures or some business sort of mothballing. We've heard stories of organisations that have said it's actually cheaper for us to shut. And so that's presumably going to be less likely to happen. But I think although there will still be some very difficult cases because energy prices have still risen, I think this is a really important point, is this hasn't solved for the energy price rises that have already happened. What it's done is says that it's going to be no more. So for households for 2 years and for businesses for 6 months, and then let's see if there's more targeted intervention needed. So in a sense, it takes away the increased apprehension and fear that's emerged over August, but it's done nothing for the concerns that existed prior to that. But if we just go back 6 weeks, it was then presumed that the energy price peak and inflation would peak kind of round about now, and then the market changed and that got pushed further into the future. So today's policy announcement takes away some of that future bit, but it doesn't solve the problem completely. It just gives greater certainty in the here and now. And so that is really welcome, because it, as I said, it takes away some of that fear that then affects business and household choices going into the winter.
Okay, thank you very much. That's Kitty Yosha, Chief Economist at the Institute of Directors. Just to recap, just gone 1:15, the news from Buckingham Palace that following further evaluation this morning, the Queen's doctors are concerned for Her Majesty's health and have recommended she remain under medical supervision. The Queen remains comfortable, they say. She's at Balmoral. Let's speak to our news correspondent, Anjana Gadgil. What more can you tell us?
Well, Adrian, we've learnt in the past few minutes that the Queen is under medical supervision at Balmoral after doctors became concerned for her health. And in a statement, Buckingham Palace have said that following further evaluation this morning, the Queen's doctors are concerned for Her Majesty's health, and they've recommended that she remains under medical supervision, adding that the Queen remains comfortable and is at Balmoral as we speak. The Queen's immediate family members have been informed. Of course, this latest announcement escalates fears for the monarch's health. She is 96. She pulled out of a virtual Privy Council meeting on Wednesday after doctors ordered her to rest. That was yesterday. we've had a statement from the Prime Minister, Liz Truss, who, of course, she met on Tuesday as Liz Truss became Prime Minister. She says, my thoughts and the thoughts of people across our United Kingdom are with Her Majesty the Queen and her family at this time. We've also had a statement from the Speaker of the House of Parliament, Lindsay Hoyle, who says Queen Elizabeth is in our thoughts and prayers. Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you very much. I can tell you that we've just heard that the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall have travelled to Balmoral. Clarence House have just released that news. Let's go to Peter Hunt for his thoughts, former BBC Royal correspondent. Peter, share with us your thoughts.
Well, I think what is striking is the fact that they have issued this statement. There was no requirement for them to do so. The Queen is on holiday. She's not due any obvious public engagements for some time. So the fact that they have felt minded to shows that they are very concerned about the state of her health. And I think the other factor that will increase people's concern about her health is the news that you have just reported there, that the Prince of Wales and his wife, the Duchess of Cornwall, have travelled from where they are in Scotland to be at Balmoral. So that would tell you and tell us and tell your listeners that there is, mounting concern about the Queen. And as they say in the statement, she's under medical supervision and she is at the castle at her home in Scotland, Balmoral, where she remains comfortable. And as your reporter was telling you earlier, there has been a long history in the past few months of the Queen not being able to attend events and missing events because of her increasing frailty. On Tuesday, she saw 2 PMs, an outgoing one and an incoming one, her 14th and her 15th. But as a result of doing that, she didn't have the strength or wasn't well enough to then do a virtual meeting that she was meant to have done yesterday evening. And so we've gone from the announcement yesterday evening that she couldn't do that and that she was advised to rest to this announcement this afternoon that doctors are concerned for her health and have recommended that she is under medical supervision and she remains at the castle.
Having said that the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall have travelled to Balmoral, we're now told that the Duke of Cambridge is also travelling there. That's according to Kensington Palace.
Well, that further adds to the whole sense that one is getting when you take those facts of a family gathering near the Queen. You take on what was said in the House of Commons by the Speaker and by the new Prime Minister, the Queen's 15th. You take all of that together and you get this sense that within the British establishment there is growing concern about her health and about her well-being at this particular moment in time.
I mean, remote as Balmoral is in some senses, Her Majesty will nevertheless be getting the very best care at this time.
Well, they will have ensured when she travelled there for her holiday. She went there in the beginning of July and she stayed in one residence there, as she always does. And then once the castle is free for her, she then moved in there in August. And again, when we think back just to the start of this month, when she moved to the castle, there's normally a welcome ceremony, but that was done privately. And again, they said that was for the Queen's comfort. But the minute she moved there, they will have ensured, given her recent deteriorating health, that she was surrounded by the necessary medical care she would need so that she could be provided with as much care as she needed so that she didn't have to go to hospital, which is clearly still the plan, that she'll be cared for at the castle and not have to be moved to a hospital.
Mm-hmm. Let's just have a quick listen, Peter, to the Speaker of the House of Commons, Lindsay Hoyle. Here's what he had to say a few moments ago.
I wish to say something about the announcement which has just been made about Her Majesty. I know I speak on behalf of the entire House when I say that we send our best wishes to Her Majesty the Queen and that she and the royal family are in our thoughts and prayers at this moment. I'm going to take no more, if there is anything else, we will update the House accordingly.
And to add to that, the Prime Minister, Liz Truss, has said the whole country will be deeply concerned by this news from Buckingham Palace, adding that my thoughts and the thoughts of people across our United Kingdom are with Her Majesty the Queen and her family at this time. And it's a dramatic time for all of us and around the world now, Peter.
Well, yes, because we can't forget, can we, that she is not only the head of state of the United Kingdom, she is the head of state of 14 other countries. So she has a resonance there as she does here. And added to that is she's probably, I think we can safely say, probably the most famous woman on this planet. I mean, people know her as the Queen or Queen Elizabeth, and people have she's been a part of their lives for many, many, many years, depending on their age. And so there will be an investment in her and a fascination in what she represents and what she has done and her sheer longevity. So the concern that there is here that you've just articulated from the Speaker of the House of Commons will be shared elsewhere across the globe by people who are very inspired, as people are in the UK, by a life devoted to duty that has gone over many, many decades, celebrated recently with her latest Jubilee celebrations. And again, that was another occasion when she was not able to attend all of the events she might have liked to because of her deteriorating health and her increasing frailty. And that increasing frailty was very evident to people on Tuesday when she said goodbye to her 14th Prime Minister Boris Johnson and said hello to her 15th Prime Minister Liz Truss when she was photographed standing with the aid of a stick and smiling, but looking frail, as people tend to do if they're 96. I mean, it is an amazing age that she has arrived at.
I mean, it says a lot about her that she insisted on performing this constitutional duty, if you like, what she's done time and again as prime ministers come and go, albeit at Balmoral, but she was determined to do it.
Well, it also highlighted the challenges that the institution faces when you have an elderly monarch, because when you strip away all of the things that the Queen does, there are a core number that only she can do, and that's made very clear on the royal website. And one of those is, as you say, appointing a prime minister. So it would have not been straightforward to have passed that on to the Prince of Wales. Once you go down that territory, you're teetering on the edge of going into the whole issue of making him Prince Regent, which is clearly something that the palace have resisted thus far. And so once they decided that they wanted the Queen to do it, then we had the challenge, as we saw on Tuesday, where you had to have two separate private jets doing a 1,000-mile round trip to get two prime ministers up and down from London because she wasn't well enough to travel. So you could, in terms of the deterioration of her health, you can understand why it might not be brilliant for a 96-year-old to get in a plane and fly down to London, but I think alarm bells started to be rung last night when she wasn't even well enough to sort of sit in front of a screen and do a virtual meeting with MPs and other government ministers at a Privy Council meeting that probably would have only lasted 15 minutes. So the signs were there. And then now today, as we've been saying, the statements in the House of Commons, and just as significantly, the news that the Prince of Wales, the Duchess of Cornwall and the Duke of Cambridge are all travelling to Balmoral, I think gives you every clear indication of the concern that is within the family, the concern that is within the government, and the sense that her health is clearly deteriorating.
If I can just read you what the Leader of the Opposition, Sir Keir Starmer's, had to say. He said, along with the rest of the country, I am deeply worried by the news from Buckingham Palace this afternoon. My thoughts are with Her Majesty the Queen and her family at this time, and I join everyone across the United Kingdom in hoping for her recovery. I mean, from what you know of the royal household and the whole operation, who's in charge now behind the scenes? And obviously the key people are the medics, they're the doctors. But who is managing the whole situation as we have, as we've said, the Duke of Cambridge on his way there, the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall all converging on Balmoral now. Who's managing all of this?
Well, the crucial person is the person that we will have been seeing. He's not a familiar figure in the public, the person that people will have seen on Tuesday if they watched the coverage of the handover of power between two prime ministers, which is Sir Edward Young, and he is the Queen's private secretary. He's there in Balmoral, so he is the key player. But as we're talking about different households, as you suggest, converging on Balmoral, the other key figure will be the Prince of Wales's private secretary, Sir Clive Alderton. And so those two have increasingly had to work together, as we have seen in recent months, the Prince of Wales taking on things that the Queen would have done ordinarily. I mean, if we cast our minds back just a month or two ago, it was the Prince of Wales, not the Queen, who delivered the Queen's speech. He delivered the speech on her behalf because she was not well enough to do it. And so these two households, the Prince's household and the Queen's household, have had to come up with a way of working together, as increasingly events that the Queen might take on will have been taken on by the Prince of Wales. And so in answer to your question, you will now see at Balmoral those key figures, their two private secretaries, very much in charge of this process as people wait for more news. And as you say, as people have been praying for her recovery.
And from your time as royal correspondent, I'm sure you'll be able to tell us the extent to which this will be global news. The world will share our concern. America is just waking up now. You can be sure that's the first things that they'll see and hear this morning.
Yes, because, as we've been saying during this conversation, Adrian, she is not just the Queen of the United Kingdom. She's the Queen of the other countries, the 14 other countries. And the thing we shouldn't forget, of course, she is the head of the Commonwealth. And that's a massively significant role for her. And hers, that she will have significance in all of these other countries, former colonies, most of them, that are now part of the Commonwealth.
Okay, thank you very much. That is Peter Hunt, our former royal correspondent. Thanks for your company today, and we've just been bringing you the news that there is concern for Her Majesty the Queen's health following evaluation by her medical team this morning. She remains comfortable, and at Balmoral, we're told. More on this in the news now, after which Nihal will take over here on 5 Live.
The voice of the UK. This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
With the BBC News on 5 Live, I'm Giuliano Casaday. In the past few minutes, Buckingham Palace has announced that doctors are concerned for the Queen's health after examining her this morning. They recommended Her Majesty remains under medical supervision. Palace officials say the Queen remains comfortable at her estate at Balmoral. Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall have travelled to Balmoral. Prince William is also on his way. Here's the royal commentator, Robert Hardman.
It's significant. The last time the sort of statement, as it were, came out of the blue was to let us know earlier this year that she'd been diagnosed with COVID. But on the whole, the view is if she's not undergoing some sort of hospital medical procedure, then these are private matters.
Liz Truss has announced there'll be an energy price cap, which she says will save the average household £1,000 a year.
This guarantee, which includes a temporary suspension of green levies, means that from the 1st of October, a typical household will pay no more than £2,500 per year for each of the next 2 years while we get the energy market back on track.
Yeah.
Well, the Prime Minister also announced help for people who are not on gas.
For those using heating oil, living in park homes or those on heat networks, we will set up a fund so that all UK consumers can benefit from equivalent support.
And here's what she said about help for businesses.
We will also support all businesses, charities and public sector organisations with their energy costs this winter, offering an equivalent guarantee for 6 months. After those 6 months, we will provide further support to vulnerable sectors such as hospitality, including our local pubs.
Liz Truss also confirmed these proposals will not be funded by a windfall tax, as she says that will undermine the national interest by discouraging investment. The new Chancellor, Kwasi Kwarteng, will set out the expected costs of the package later this month. In other news, 1 in 8 people in England are on the waiting list for operations and other types of care as the backlog in NHS hospital treatments continues to grow. Data shows there were 6.8 million people waiting for treatment at the end of July, which is an increase from 4.2 million before the pandemic. Ukrainian forces have begun a major counter-offensive in the east of the country. Western analysts believe they have broken through Russian lines and have taken some towns and villages in the Kharkiv region. Royal Mail workers at the Communication Workers Union are taking part in a strike over pay and working conditions. The union say a 2% pay rise was imposed on them, but Royal Mail says the union rejected an offer worth up to 5.5%. Those are the headlines. Just to reiterate, in the past few minutes, Buckingham Palace has announced that doctors are concerned for the Queen's health after examining her this morning. We'll have more updates as we get them this afternoon. Those are the headlines. Jonathan McKeith has the sport.
Giuliano, thank you. Brighton manager Graham Potter didn't take training this morning amid speculation he's to become the next manager of Chelsea. He could make the move to London within the next 24 hours. He's already held talks with the club. Cricket, and there'll be a pitch inspection at the Oval at 1:30. Rain has meant there's been no play so far on the opening day of the third test between England and South Africa. And Carlos Alcaraz says he still doesn't know how he managed to come through his epic US Open quarter-final against Jannik Sinner. The 19-year-old saved a match point before winning in 5 sets at 10-3 in the morning.
The voice of the UK. This is 5 Live.
Nahal Arthanaika. Listen live on digital, online, smart speaker, or the BBC Sounds app.
Good afternoon, it's 4 minutes past 1. The Queen is under medical supervision at Balmoral, with doctors concerned for her health. A palace spokesperson said, following further evaluation this morning, the Queen's doctors are concerned for Her Majesty's health and have recommended she remain under medical supervision. The Queen remains comfortable and at Balmoral. Prince Charles and Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall, are travelling to Balmoral, as is the Duke of Cambridge. Prime Minister Liz Truss said the whole country will be deeply concerned by the news from Buckingham Palace this lunchtime, adding, "My thoughts and the thoughts of people across our United Kingdom are with Her Majesty the Queen and her family at this time." Labour leader Keir Starmer, along with the rest of the country, said, "I am deeply worried by the news from Buckingham Palace this afternoon. My thoughts are with Her Majesty the Queen and her family at this time, and I join